Hera Syndulla was more than just the pilot of the Ghost, she was its anchor. From the very first days of the crew's formation, she carried a vision larger than any one mission. Hera understood that fighting the Empire wasn't only about blaster fire and sabotage. It was about giving people hope, building trust where fear had taken root, and keeping the team together when the galaxy seemed determined to tear them apart. Her leadership style was subtle, even understated. While others might lead with grand speeches or fiery defiance, Hera led by example. She was the first to rise and the last to rest, meticulously planning every jump to hyperspace, every supply run, and every risky infiltration. She didn't just give orders, she listened. Hera could read her crew like she read the stars, knowing when to push and when to pull back. She gave Ezra the space to grow, Kanan the stability to focus, Sabine the freedom to create, Zeb the respect to stand tall, and Chopper, well, enough patience to let him be himself. But Hera's strength wasn't only in strategy, it was in resilience. Time and again, the Ghost crew faced loss, betrayal, and crushing setbacks. When missions went wrong and morale dipped, it was Hera who quietly steadied the ship, reminding them why they fought. She never lost sight of the bigger picture, even when her heart was breaking. Her dream of a united rebellion was more than an ideal. It was the compass that guided every decision she made. Her personal sacrifices were immense. Hera often put the cause above her own happiness, even when it meant parting ways with loved ones or risking her life without hesitation. She carried the weight of responsibility for every soul under her command, from her crewmates to the wider Rebel Alliance. And though she rarely sought recognition, her influence reached far beyond the cockpit of the Ghost. She was a bridge between scattered cells of resistance, a voice of reason in chaos, and a symbol of the rebellion's enduring spirit. Hera's bond with Kanan Jarrus revealed another side to her leadership, a deep capacity for love and vulnerability. Their partnership wasn't just romantic, it was built on mutual trust, shared burdens, and unspoken understanding. Even after Kanan's ultimate sacrifice, Hera didn't falter. She carried his legacy forward, ensuring that his dream and theirs would live on. In the end, Hera Syndulla's impact on the galaxy can't be measured in battles won or ships flown. It's in the lives she touched, the courage she inspired, and the unity she forged out of fear and doubt. While heroes like Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus may have captured the spotlight, it was Hera who made their victories possible. She wasn't just the pilot of the Ghost, she was its soul. And in the vast darkness of the galaxy, Hera's steady light guided them all home. What makes a true leader in a galaxy far, far away? It's not just flying a ship. It's holding a team together when the galaxy itself is falling apart. From the moment Hera Syndulla took the controls of the Ghost, she was more than a skilled pilot. She was the compass guiding her crew through every twist of the rebellion. Amidst the chaos of Imperial oppression, unpredictable missions, and a mismatched group of freedom fighters, Hera became the grounded, practical anchor who kept them from drifting apart. She didn't just give them a ship, she gave them a home. Hera's leadership was never loud or ostentatious. While Kanan Jarrus often stood at the front lines with a lightsaber in hand, and Ezra Bridger's journey from street thief to Jedi drew much of the spotlight, Hera's role was quieter, but no less vital. She saw the big picture when others were caught in the moment. Every mission, every risk, every daring escape was part of a larger strategy to not only survive but to build something greater, a unified rebellion capable of toppling the Empire. Her emotional labor was constant and often unseen. Hera was the one who mediated tensions between Zeb and Ezra when their banter threatened to turn into real conflict. She gave Sabine Wren the freedom to explore her art and identity while gently guiding her toward causes that mattered. She understood Chopper's gruff exterior and let him be his chaotic self because she knew even the crankiest astromech had his place in the fight. Hera wasn't just their commander, she was their confidant, their sounding board, and, when necessary, their reality check. And she carried her own burdens without letting them crush her crew. Hera had her share of heartaches. Estrangement from her family on Ryloth, the constant fear of losing her partner, and the knowledge that every mission might be their last. Yet she rarely let those struggles show. Instead, she channeled her pain into focus, her fears into determination. She understood that a leader's steadiness could mean the difference between a crew that fought on and one that fell apart. Strategically, Hera was unmatched. She knew when to strike and when to retreat, balancing bold risk with calculated planning. She coordinated with other rebel cells, navigated political divisions, and earned the respect of key figures in the alliance. Her ability to think several moves ahead was what allowed the Ghost Crew to survive against impossible odds. Many of their most daring victories, missions that seemed like certain suicide, were possible because of Hera's foresight and adaptability. Her relationship with Kanan revealed a softer but equally powerful side of her leadership. They didn't need grand gestures to prove their bond. Their trust was built in the quiet moments, shared glances before a mission, silent understanding in the midst of chaos. Hera's love for Kanan didn't distract her from the fight, it strengthened her resolve. And when the time came for Kanan to make his ultimate sacrifice, Hera didn't crumble. She mourned, but she also carried his memory forward, embodying the same courage he had shown her. Even after the Ghost Crew's adventures became part of Rebel history, Hera's influence endured. She rose to the rank of general in the Rebel Alliance, her leadership guiding fleets instead of just a single crew. Yet she never lost the qualities that made her the heart of the Ghost: compassion, pragmatism, and the unwavering belief that people, not weapons, win wars. Hera Syndulla's legacy is not one of flashy heroics, but of quiet strength. She proved that leadership isn't about commanding from the front. It's about ensuring that everyone makes it home, that each person's strengths are recognized, and that hope survives even in the darkest moments. In a galaxy dominated by fear, Hera built a family out of misfits and turned them into a force that changed the course of history. She was more than a pilot. She was the soul of the Ghost, the voice of reason in chaos, and the heart that kept the crew and the rebellion beating. Without Hera, the Ghost might have been just another ship. With her, it became something far greater, a home, a refuge, and a symbol of what they were fighting for. In the heart of the Ghost, amidst the hum of engines and the chaos of rebellion, Hera Syndulla embodied something rare in a galaxy consumed by war. A mother's instinct. Not bound by blood or lineage, her sense of care and responsibility extended to every member of her crew. She didn't just command them, she nurtured them, building a found family out of broken pieces and giving each one a place to belong. For Hera, leadership was never about issuing orders from a distance. It was about understanding the people she led, their histories, their fears, their hopes, and creating an environment where they could heal and thrive. Her ship was more than a vessel. It was a sanctuary for those who had been cast adrift by the galaxy's cruelty. Kanan Jarrus was perhaps the clearest example of Hera's gift for seeing the person beneath the mask. A former Jedi in hiding, Kanan carried the weight of survivor's guilt from Order 66. He had been adrift for years, unsure of his place in a world where the Jedi Order was gone. Hera recognized his potential long before he was ready to embrace it. She gave him space to grow back into the role of a teacher, encouraged his bond with Ezra, and helped him rediscover the courage to stand for something greater than himself. Her unwavering belief in him became a quiet force, reminding Kanan that he wasn't alone, and that he could still be a Jedi, even in the shadows of the Empire. With Sabine Wren, Hera's approach was different. Sabine was fiercely independent, her Mandalorian pride often clashing with the need for teamwork. She was also carrying deep scars from her past, a young woman who had once served the Empire and paid dearly for it. Hera gave Sabine the freedom to express herself through her art, never trying to stifle her creativity or her need for individuality. But when Sabine's past caught up with her, Hera was there with firm guidance, helping her face her fears without judgment. She understood that Sabine's fire wasn't something to be extinguished. It was a strength that, once directed, could become a powerful force for good. Then there was Ezra Bridger, the street-smart orphan whose mistrust of authority was matched only by his longing for connection. When Ezra first boarded the Ghost, he was skeptical of Hera's intentions, viewing the crew as just another group that might use him and discard him. Hera's patience and persistence slowly dismantled those walls. She gave Ezra responsibility when he needed to prove himself, discipline when he needed to be grounded, and unconditional support when he failed. Through her guidance, Ezra came to see the Ghost not just as a ship, but as his home, and its crew as his family. Zeb. Aurelius was the gruff, battle-hardened warrior who hid his grief behind humor and bravado. The destruction of his homeworld and the loss of his people left wounds that ran deep. Hera never pushed Zeb to open up before he was ready, but she made it clear that he was valued, not just as muscle, but as a person. She respected his sense of honor and gave him roles that played to his strengths, while also making sure he knew he had a safe place to rest. In many ways, Hera helped Zeb reconnect to the idea of community, something he had thought was lost forever. Hera's mother-hen persona was not about coddling or shielding her crew from hardship. She understood that the galaxy they lived in was unforgiving. Instead, it was about giving them the tools, the trust, and the belief they needed to face those hardships together. She balanced compassion with accountability, allowing each crew member to grow into their best self without losing sight of the bonds that united them. This nurturing nature extended far beyond the Ghost. Hera's reputation for fairness, empathy, and resolve made her a unifying figure among other rebel cells. In a rebellion often fragmented by differing priorities and political tensions, Hera's ability to connect with people on a personal level became a quiet but essential glue. She reminded everyone from lone smugglers to seasoned soldiers that the rebellion was not just about strategy and firepower. It was about protecting lives, preserving hope, and ensuring that no one had to stand alone. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Hera's mother role was that it transcended the crew's time together. Even when their paths diverged, the lessons and values she instilled endured. Ezra carried her faith in him into the most dangerous moments of his journey. Sabine drew on Hera's example when leading her own missions. Zeb never forgot the feeling of belonging she gave him, using it to forge new alliances. And Kanan, until his final moment, stood as a man strengthened by the love and trust Hera had shown him. In a galaxy defined by loss, Hera Syndulla created something profoundly rare, a family bound not by blood, but by choice and loyalty. Her instinct to protect, guide, and believe in her crew turned a ragtag group of rebels into something greater than the sum of their parts. And in doing so, she not only helped keep the rebellion alive, she reminded them all what they were fighting for. Hera's legacy is proof that in the midst of war, it's not just blasters and starfighters that win battles. Sometimes, it's a home-cooked meal in the Ghost's galley, a patient word of advice, or the knowledge that someone will be waiting for you when you return. That was Hera Syndulla's gift to the rebellion and to her family. Hera Syndulla's contributions to the rebellion extended far beyond her role as the Ghost's pilot, or even as the emotional heart of her crew. She possessed a strategic mind, honed through years of fighting oppression, learning from both victories and crushing defeats. In countless battles, Hera was not just following orders, she was shaping the course of events, finding ways to outmaneuver the Empire even when the odds were stacked heavily against her. What set her apart wasn't only her skill at the helm, but her ability to think 3 moves ahead, to anticipate the enemy's reactions, and to make choices that served the greater goal, even at great personal cost. She had an instinct for reading the battlefield, whether in the skies or in the tense political arenas of the rebellion's growing alliance. Hera understood that wars aren't won by brute force alone. They are won by preparation, adaptability, and a keen sense of when to take risks. Some of her most significant contributions came not in moments of glory, but in the quiet, calculated decisions no one else noticed until they paid off. When others might rush headlong into a fight, Hera would assess every angle, asking who would be impacted, what resources would be strained, and how the outcome would ripple through the larger fight against the Empire. It was this discipline that often saved lives, both of her own crew and of other rebel cells who depended on her foresight. Her leadership extended beyond the battlefield. Hera had the rare ability to navigate the tangled web of rebel politics, where multiple factions with differing agendas were often forced to cooperate. She knew how to speak to people, how to inspire trust in skeptical allies and find common ground between groups that barely agreed on anything except the need to resist the Empire. Hera's diplomacy wasn't flashy, but it was deeply effective. She could walk into a room full of distrust and leave with a fragile but workable alliance, knowing that even the smallest step forward could have enormous strategic value. One of the most defining aspects of her strategic mind was her unwavering commitment to the long game. Hera understood that the rebellion's fight was not going to be won in a single, decisive battle. The goal was survival, of people, of ideals, of hope, long enough to build the momentum needed for a galaxy-wide uprising. This meant making sacrifices, delaying gratification, and sometimes walking away from fights she could have won if it meant securing a larger advantage later. It was a kind of patience that not all rebel leaders possessed, but it was exactly what the movement needed to endure. Her personal resilience became even more evident when tragedy struck. Hera suffered devastating losses during the war, friends, allies, and eventually the man she loved. The pain was real and unrelenting, but she never allowed it to shatter her resolve. If anything, her grief sharpened her focus, turning loss into determination. She carried the weight of those sacrifices with her, not as a burden that slowed her down, but as a reminder of why she fought. Every mission, every risk, every sleepless night was for those who could no longer fight alongside her. Perhaps one of her most impressive moments came when she faced overwhelming Imperial forces and had to make a choice that would determine the survival of the entire Phoenix Squadron. With calculated precision, she orchestrated an escape that not only saved her people, but dealt a damaging blow to the Empire's supply chain. It was the kind of operation that required every ounce of her tactical skill, her ability to coordinate under pressure, and her trust in the team she had built. Hera's strength was never just about her own abilities, it was about her capacity to empower others. She inspired her crew to grow into their own strengths, giving them space to lead when the moment called for it. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate choice, a reflection of her understanding that a leader's job is not to be the hero every time, but to ensure that others are ready to step up when the galaxy needs them. In this way, she was the backbone not only of the Ghost Crew, but of the broader rebellion itself. Even in the darkest moments, Hera Syndulla stood as a steady, unshakable force. She could rally her people in the face of impossible odds, remind them of the cause when despair threatened to take hold, and find a way forward when the path seemed closed. Her strategic genius, combined with her unwavering will, made her an indispensable figure in the fight against the Empire. A leader whose influence would ripple far beyond her own lifetime, shaping the galaxy's fight for freedom for generations to come. Leadership in a time of war is not only measured by victories, but by the sacrifices made along the way. And for Hera Syndulla, those sacrifices were deeply personal. As one of the key leaders of the rebellion, Hera's path was lined with moments that demanded impossible choices. Every commander knows the weight of sending people into danger. But for Hera, those people were not just soldiers, they were friends, family, and in many cases, the only loved ones she had left. Each decision to engage, retreat, or press forward came with the knowledge that lives could be lost. The cost of command was not abstract for her. It was heartbreakingly real. One of the heaviest burdens she carried was the loss of Kanan Jarros, her partner in both life and the fight against the Empire. Kanan's death was not just a personal tragedy. It was a seismic shift in Hera's world. They had faced countless dangers together, but his sacrifice to ensure the survival of the crew and the success of their mission was a wound that never truly healed. In the aftermath, Hera had to navigate a storm of grief while maintaining her position as a leader. She didn't have the luxury of falling apart. The people under her command still looked to her for guidance, and the war didn't pause for her mourning. Yet, what made Hera's resilience so remarkable was not the absence of pain, but her willingness to carry it. She didn't pretend that loss hadn't affected her. Instead, she let it shape her into a leader who understood the stakes on the most human level. Every time she stepped into the cockpit or stood before her crew, she did so knowing the cost of the fight. Not in numbers or statistics, but in the faces and voices of those she had loved and lost. This vulnerability didn't make her weaker, it made her stronger. It connected her to the people she led in a way that pure authority never could. Hera's leadership was never about detachment or emotional distance. She felt the weight of every loss, but instead of letting it paralyze her, she turned it into a driving force. This emotional resilience became one of her greatest strengths. She understood that courage isn't the absence of fear or grief, it's the decision to keep moving forward in spite of them. The rebellion demanded leaders who could endure the emotional toll of war, and Hera's ability to remain steadfast, even with a broken heart, made her one of the most trusted and respected figures in the fight. Her continued dedication after Kanan's death was a testament to her clarity of purpose. For Hera, the cause was never just an abstract fight against tyranny. It was about creating a future where no one else would have to endure the same losses she had. That vision gave her the strength to keep pushing forward, even when her personal world was in pieces. She often carried herself with quiet composure, but there were moments, brief, fleeting, when her grief surfaced. Those moments didn't undermine her authority, they deepened it. They reminded everyone around her that she wasn't just a symbol or a strategist, she was a person, fighting for something that mattered on the most intimate level. In many ways, Hera's vulnerability became a bridge between her and those she led. Soldiers and crew members knew they could trust her, not only because she was capable, but because she understood the personal stakes of their struggle. She didn't ask them to make sacrifices she wouldn't make herself. She had already given so much. Her safety, her home, her partner. And yet she never wavered in her commitment. That kind of leadership inspires loyalty not through fear or obligation, but through shared purpose and mutual respect. There were also moments when the cost of command weighed heavily on her decisions. Hera knew that the war could not be won without risk, but she also knew that reckless choices could destroy everything they had built. Balancing the need for bold action with the responsibility to protect her people was a constant struggle. She bore that responsibility quietly, rarely speaking of the toll it took on her. But those who knew her best, like the members of the Ghost crew, could see the way she carried those burdens, and they respected her all the more for it. For viewers, Hera's journey was a powerful reminder that true strength is not about being unshakable. It's about being able to bend without breaking. She faced moments that could have hardened her into someone distant and closed off, yet she chose the harder path, to remain open, to keep caring, and to keep risking her heart for the sake of others. That choice made her not only an effective leader, but a deeply relatable one. In the end, Hera Syndulla's story is as much about endurance as it is about victory. Her sacrifices, her grief, and her unwavering commitment to the cause form a portrait of leadership that resonates far beyond the Star Wars galaxy. She shows that the cost of command is steep, but that resilience rooted in compassion and purpose can carry a leader through even the darkest times. For Hera, every loss was a reminder of why she fought, and every victory, no matter how small, was a step toward honoring those sacrifices. That balance of strength and vulnerability is what made her a legend, not just to the rebellion, but to everyone who witnessed her fight. Hera Syndulla's journey from skilled Twi'lek pilot of the Ghost to respected general of the Rebel Alliance is more than just a career progression. It's a testament to her vision, courage, and the lasting influence she had on the galaxy's fight for freedom. In the early days, Hera was already a leader in every sense of the word, even if her rank didn't yet reflect it. Her ability to inspire loyalty among the Ghost crew, navigate impossible missions, and think 3 steps ahead made her indispensable long before she wore the title of General. But as the rebellion grew into a more formalized force, so too did her responsibilities, and her reach extended far beyond the cockpit of her beloved ship. As General Syndulla, Hera was no longer just coordinating small-scale strikes or guerrilla operations. She became a central figure in shaping the strategy of the rebel fleet, working alongside Mon Mothma and other high-ranking leaders to unite disparate cells under a single banner. Her knowledge of Imperial tactics, gleaned from years of outmaneuvering Star Destroyers and evading elite pilots, proved invaluable. She could read the battlefield like a map in her mind, anticipating enemy moves before they happened. That strategic brilliance made her not only respected by her peers, but also feared by her adversaries. Yet Hera's true legacy wasn't just in the victories she helped secure. It was in the people she inspired. For young pilots, soldiers, and officers entering the fight, Hera was a living example of what it meant to lead with both head and heart. She mentored with patience, never shying away from difficult truths, but always ensuring her guidance built others up rather than tearing them down. For those who had lost their families to the Empire's cruelty, Hera became a beacon. Proof that you could forge a new one and still fight for something bigger than yourself. Her influence extended well into the post-Endor era. Even as the New Republic struggled to stabilize the galaxy, Hera remained active, ensuring that the sacrifices made during the rebellion were not forgotten. She trained new generations of pilots, instilling in them the same discipline, courage, and compassion that had carried her through the darkest days of the war. In Ahsoka, we see her as a seasoned leader who has never lost that fire, balancing her duties as a military figure with her deeply personal investment in the lives of those she serves alongside. It's in this continued presence, years after the Empire's fall, that her impact is most clearly seen. Hera didn't simply win battles, she cultivated leaders. She didn't just command missions, she built trust and unity. Her story is a reminder that revolutions are won not only by those who carry lightsabers or fire the decisive shot, but also by those who hold the line, guide the lost, and keep the heart of the fight alive. In the grand tapestry of Star Wars, Hera Syndulla may not always take center stage, but her role is essential. She embodies the ideals of the rebellion: resilience, empathy, and unshakable resolve. She is proof that leadership is about service, that strength can coexist with kindness, and that one person's steady hand can shape the course of history. For all these reasons, Hera remains one of the most vital and inspiring figures in the galaxy, far, far away, the true heart of the rebellion, and a legacy that will continue to inspire generations to come.